Hey everyone, welcome back. I don't often have the same guest on multiple times, but this is an important exception, and I want you to stick around. So without any further delay, let me introduce this week's guest. What happens when a business book doesn't just share advice, but reshapes how entrepreneurs think about money, systems, and long-term growth? Today's guest has built a body of work that does exactly that. He's the author of multiple best-selling books that have become go-to resources for small business owners, including The Pumpkin Plan, Clockwork First, Fix the Next, and Profit First, which has transformed how entrepreneurs manage cash flow by teaching them to pay themselves first and run more profitable businesses from day one. And that book has changed my business for the good. His latest book, The Money Habit, brings those same powerful principles to personal finance, helping readers take control of their money through habits that support clarity, confidence, and long-term peace of mind. With his signature mix of humor, clarity, and real-world insights, he turns complex business challenges into simple, actionable frameworks that help entrepreneurs stop surviving and start thriving. His books have been translated into dozens of languages and have inspired a global community of profit-first professionals, certified coaches, and devoted readers who credit his work with saving their businesses. Whether he's speaking from the stage, hosting the 4-Minute Moneymaker TV show, writing his next book, or building his own companies, his mission stays the same: to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. Please join me in welcoming Mike Michalowicz. Mike, thanks so much for joining us.
Robbie, you read that script perfectly.
You've lived this incredible life, and I was so excited when I reached out to you that you had yet another book to share. Before we dive into the most recent book, The Money Habit, you were I've learned something, now I share it person. I'm like that too. So I'm curious, across all of your books, which of the ideas took the longest to prove to yourself before you felt, okay, I am ready to now teach this to the world?
Hands down, it's my book, Fix This Next. And a recurring question was, what do I need to work on in my business? And I noticed in my own businesses, I'd always gravitate toward the thing that was immediately in front of me. Oh, I saw sales drop a little bit. We need to get a salesperson in or whatever. We have unhappy clients. We need to get on top of customer service. But I realized that a business is kind of like a chain, a link of events or activities. And you only make a chain stronger, not by fixing every link or the one that's in your hand. You find what the weakest link is. And if you fix that, the entire chain is stronger to the next weakest link. And you ping pong around improving just the weakest link. So when I wrote Fix This Next, it was to identify the weakest link. It took me a long time to figure out my own businesses. And then we had to test it out with hundreds of other companies. And it took a real long time to codify that system. So I'm very proud of it. It works. I use it in all the work I do now. But gosh, that was grueling to figure out how to find the weak link.
Because the thing that's right in front of you isn't necessarily that weak link. It's usually something else that's calling your attention. And as entrepreneurs, we often, where we focus our attention is, right? That's not always the right place to put our money and our time. So I love, like, how do we get ourselves out of our own way?
Exactly.
to focus on the weak link.
There's a psychological phenomenon called the recency effect, and we put more significance in what happened in the moment than we do anything else. And so we feel that, oh God, we had a really bad sales day. We think we have a sales issue. And you actually may not, or it may be minor compared to other issues. So how do you get past that recency effect to pinpoint quickly what the biggest challenge is and then see it through to resolution before you move on to the next?
I can see how figuring that out for yourself was one thing, and then codifying it for others to follow. And I find that there's even a difference between coaching and writing in a book, because coaching, you're there to navigate with them and course correct, but finding a way to explain it to readers who don't have you whispering in their ear. Like, what's the shift like for you?
It's very difficult. I do testing. And so I'll never forget, with Fix This Next, I sat down with a group of business owners. There's about 30 in a room. We were there for something else. And I simply asked, I said, hey, can I spend just 15 minutes explaining a simple system, which wasn't so simple at that point, and you guys go through this quick assessment? And so people said, yeah. So I explained it for 2 minutes, and I gave them this assessment and just observed. And like 3 questions in, people were kind of rolling their eyes. They started conversations. The whole thing fell apart within minutes. And the feedback was, this system sucks. And it was a gut punch to me, and said, oh, I am not there yet. And I had to do this iteratively for years until I finally got to a really simple analysis. It's based upon, there's a concept called the Pareto principle. And basically, a small amount of change can effectuate great impact. 20%, it's the 80-20 rule. So what's the 20% of things that people had to identify? I was trying to get the whole suite of problems analyzed. And I figured out what's the 20% of core problems every business has and how we find those quickly. And to your point, it has to be consumable through paper or through audio, but it's a one-way conversation. It's a one-way direction, and it has to be consumable.
I think for first time authors, that kind of patience to do that kind of due diligence for such a long time is really, really hard, which is
Yeah.
why it's the quality of that kind of book is not a first book usually because people feel itchy and they have to publish it. But you had already proven yourself as the author and as the coach, and you really wanted to kind of unwind this problem. When you're working on a book, at what point do you realize there's more to it than just a book? I mean, a lot of your books have full ecosystems, communities, certifications. Like, at what point does that idea come to be part of the process? Is it while you're writing it? Is it after it hits the world and the world responds and basically asks for it, that kind of interaction with you?
Yeah. So in most cases, it comes out prior to the book, but that's not how it started. So when I have a concept, the first book I wrote because it's something I needed. It was
Mhm.
called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneurs. It's very edgy, albeit sophomoric kind of approach to business, but it worked very well because of its edge. But then I started building a small community, but a community of readers, and I started asking them, "What do you need next?" Which I think is the most important thing authors can ask is, "What do you need now? What continues this journey for you?" And they said, "I have a problem with X, Y, Z." And I wrote the pumpkin plan. So it really was about organic growth. How do I grow this business without just constantly asserting myself? And during that, I would start sharing the manuscript before it was published with people, and I look for feedback. And one piece of feedback I got during that book, which I didn't expect, was, well, who coaches this? Who teaches this? And it's like, oh, I need to certify coaches to teach this. And that's what I've done with my books. I will first find out what people need next. I will then see if I have a problem or a challenge there, I'll investigate it. Then, as I'm sharing the manuscript, I'll see if people want help beyond the book, and then I'll start an organization around it. That whole process, why I said that in 45 seconds, is about 5 years of work from concept to organization behind a book.
So the book may be out for a while before having all that in place, or do you wait to release the book?
Well, nowadays, organization comes out usually prior to the book, but back then, then the organization came about a year later. And I was, what I would do is people would call and say, "Hey, I don't understand how the pumpkin plan works." I would do some of the coaching. I had a colleague, I still do. Her name's Donna, and Donna Lyons and I would go out and we do the coaching ourselves until we figured out what the coaching program is that worked with the script of the book. Because I've been through that process now enough
Mhm.
times, I will create the organization if it's justified. Not every book needs it first. And so when the book comes out and launches, there's already an organization that's been coaching and teaching it, and I've written about them in the book. And then the book becomes, in part, a marketing piece also for the organization and what it's doing.
Right. It helps people reading the book realize, A, they have this problem, this bigger problem they thought they had. They thought they had a symptom. Now they aware of the bigger problem. They see your solution and they realize they don't have to stay stuck. But also, I love the scaling of this because most people I'm working with are still in the beginning stages of this kind of business and they're thinking about building their own coaching practice. And you're now immediately like, well, how do I figure it out? And then how do I train and certify other people to support so we can scale the reach of other people getting this advice?
Yeah, I consider it like a gym. I think anyone can read how to do certain exercises and stuff to improve your physical health, but it also requires the discipline to do it. And some people will read the script and adhere to it, even though it's not right for them exactly. It needs some modification. I would guess, Robbie, maybe 1 out of 100 readers say, "I need this customized for me," or "I need someone that's to hold me accountable." And that's where kind of the gym trainer kicks in.
Mhm.
So I expect when I produce a book, I fully hope that someone can consume it and go at it on their own without any assistance. But I also realize there's going to be a small portion of that community of readers who aren't the DIYers. They want the assistance. And it's nice to have an organization then to support that.
So I'm similar to you, really focused on giving people really concrete action steps in the books that I write.
It's great.
And my first book, I didn't have a clear plan other than speaking beyond, like, I didn't know what I was
Right,
creating
right.
and had to kind of fumble my way through what that coaching package would eventually look like. But now I just released a book called Launch Your Book, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews that Drive Revenue, because my first three books had hundreds of reviews, and I'm not Mike and I'm not Dory Clark. Like, I don't have that kind of following. And so how am I getting 200, 250 written reviews, not just ratings, but written reviews? And so I had a process, right? I had a proven process. I'd done it with other people, et cetera. And what I love is I do love the stories of people who read it, take action, and get great results.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I have people who write me, they're like, oh my God, I did the thing you told me to do, and I got 76 reviews. Yay. They're not
Yeah.
an ideal client. If they're able and willing to do those things on their own, then they're not an ideal client. But
That's
like you
right.
said, they're people who read that and go, ooh, it sounds like it would work, but I don't think I have the capacity or interest, inclination to do it. Oh, Robbie offers that. Or in your case, I can go look for a profit first professional. I can look for a
Right.
certified coach. I love this. Now, this latest book, The Money Habit, shifts things a bit because it's a different realm. You were really
Yeah.
focused on business finance. That's how I thought, business and business finance. Now you're getting into more personal finance. I'm curious about any mindset shifts that you went through to write a book like this with that same clarity and authority.
Well, it's a new community for me, but it's an extension of my existing community. So as I shared earlier, Robbie, the question I put out to my audience is, what do you need now? And the feedback came from entrepreneurs saying, with profit first, not everybody, but some people are really nailing their numbers now, and many people were in their business, but they said, I'm still struggling at home, which I'm like, oh, just do profit first at home. But it sounds obvious saying that, but the practical application is not nearly as easy. And in business, and I know you know this, Robbie, if your business does well, but your personal finances are struggling, our home will leech off of our business. But the reverse happens too. I've seen people save for their future and their home is secure financially, but the business is struggling. It leeches off of that future at the home. So both have to be nailed. So that's why I felt called to write it. Interestingly, the entrepreneurs that read my books typically have employees, and they can be small organizations, a handful of employees, one or two, maybe more, and some large organizations. One company had 900 employees that read Profit First and deployed it. And what they were telling me was, my employees have financial worries, but they don't necessarily voice it to me. But they don't sit down, but they will sometimes say, "Can I get a raise?" or "I need a little bit. I'm crunched for money." But even if they're not speaking about it, there is this undercurrent, this drone of financial worry. Can I pay my mortgage or rent or groceries today, this week, this month? And if they have that worry, they're bringing that to work. I mean, they're trying to do the work, but they have a drone of worry. So I, as an entrepreneur, have a responsibility to eradicate that worry so they can focus more selfishly on work. So these entrepreneurs started saying, "Can you give this to my employees?" And so I had to rewrite the system, but it was a dynamic I wasn't used to, because entrepreneurs have very volatile incomes. We can crush it one year and be really struggling for a couple of years after that. It's up and down. And so I wrote Profit First to manage that volatility. But that is not the normal lifestyle financially of most people. Most people have a predictable income. And you can get terminated, you can lose a job. I mean, there's these dark moments. But you have a predictable salary, and you know that paycheck is coming with some degree of assurity. How does someone that has a predictable revenue manage their money, but they don't have the upside potential of an entrepreneur where you have that killer year and you bank money? And so I had to understand that. And that took a good year or two of study to understand and grasp it, because it wasn't a lifestyle that I've lived.
Right.
The other thing is, I talk about these books taking years to produce, but I've written now 11 books. People are like, how do you write so many books? On average, I have a book come out every year and a half. I work on books in parallel. So while a book takes about 4 to 5 years to fully manifest, I start one book this year. I start a next book in a year after that. And now these books are running in parallel. And so it looks like I'm rolling them out left and right, but there's a lot of effort put in behind the scenes.
There's a real discipline in that process you just described. Where does that come from for you? Like, how did you know that you could manage multiple ongoing projects and not just, like there's a lot of entrepreneurs, the shiny object, they get hooked on one thing,
Yeah.
and that one thing takes up their whole life. Probably a noble obstacle, probably, like not even
Yeah.
the thing they
Yeah.
have to be working on. But how did you know that you could manage so many competing priorities and move things forward to completion, which is key here.
It was
Not
key.
just
Yeah. I
yeah.
think part of it is the right community. You mentioned Dory Clark. She is a rock star author, and I consider her an extraordinary colleague and friend. I'm actually going to go down to Miami to spend some time with her in just a few weeks. Um, hang out with other authors and learning their tips and tricks, consuming this podcast, like listening to things um, where there's a desire, there is a pathway to get there, and others probably have blazed that trail. So that's a huge thing for me. The second thing is just capturing who you naturally are. Um, I have a thing called hypomania. It's I'm diagnosed by my in-laws. Both my father-in-law and mother-in-law are both psychologists. They both said, "Oh, you have hypomania," which there's we know hypermania. Hypomania is basically 1 degree less. It's this energy that I've got to expel. And if I don't, I start to get super antsy. So working on multiple things kind of actually quelches that scream. And if I just did one thing for days or months or gosh, years on end, I, I'll lose my ability because of this hypomania. By allowing myself to work on something for a few hours, book one, and then jump to book two for a little bit, it's like this relief I feel because I'm expelling the energy, but also in a new direction. So I just kind of leverage who I believe I naturally am, if that makes sense.
I mean, Mike, I identify as a multi-passionate entrepreneur.
I love that term. I love that
So
term.
I
Yeah.
love what you're describing too. I'm like, oh, I have to look into this.
Yeah,
Anyone else
hypomania.
listening?
There's actually, let's hit my camera by accident. There is a book out there about hypomania that I've been reading, and it's funny when we get a diagnosis. At least me, I'm like, oh, that's a detrimental thing. I like to reframe it and say, oh, this is like my superpower, I guess. And how do I leverage it? So I've been reading about it, and Hamilton, the famous Broadway musical that's about Hamilton. Andrew Hamilton had hypomania, and they go through all these different people that have it and how they leverage it to their advantage.
I love the rewrites that are happening these days around people who have different neurodivergent ways of being in the world, the ways their brain operates, and that those are superpowers if you leaned into them that way. I think
Truth.
that's really awesome. Um, you know, I 11 books.
Yeah.
You started this. What was the first year that the first book came out?
2008, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So we're recording this in 2026, and I'm curious if there's something about your writing or your launch process that you're doing these days that would really surprise the you in 2008 who was publishing that first book.
Okay, so my new book is coming out as of this recording a week from now. So it's coming out January 27th. So I assume this recording will be live already. But I mean, after the launch, on January 27th, the Money Hab's coming out. I'm doing a 12-hour marathon where I'm interviewing 50 and change, like say 52 money experts. Gene Chatsky, who was on the Today Show for 20 years and writes for ARP now, is coming on. All Tiffany Aliche, who wrote Get Good with Money. Dory Clark is actually going to be making an appearance too on the reinvention of yourself and what are the financial consequences. To have that many people, listen, when I launched my first book, I knew no one, and I think no one would have been willing to support me at that point because I had no recognition in the community and hadn't contributed to the community. But over the years, I've built relationships with these folks and hopefully have been able to support them in ways that they're coming back and supporting me in this extraordinary way. It's gonna be 12 hours, 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm interviewing each person. My little thing is I got to have bio breaks, obviously, and eat a little bit. So some of the presentations, I ask the authors just to share their concepts while I run to the bathroom and come back.
Oh my gosh, this is like it's like a telethon of yesteryear in a virtual live stream of today, like the nonstop content, but
Yeah, you
also
hear like the phones ringing in the background.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what's
yeah.
the charitable fundraiser for? But, the fact that you like you said, it's the community that you've built and that you've been giving to that world. So when you like a book, so I like right now, my focus of my work has evolved from teaching people how to network to coaching them on, better building audiences before they sell something to all the Zoom stuff that was happening because I became the Zoom guy during the pandemic. And now I'm really focusing on the launch of a book. And I tell people it's the best opportunity to knock on doors and re-engage. But the people I've seen who have the hardest time wrapping their head around that possibility are the ones who haven't been contributing for years. Like there really are a lot of people that who are like, well, why would anyone help me? And it's because they haven't been helping
Yeah.
anyone. And I really like, if you have a book and you're listening, folks, start to figure out how to give back to everyone else right now. Like, don't wait till you have a book. Start writing reviews, start making introductions, start writing comments on people's LinkedIn posts. Like, just start giving a lot. You'll feel a lot better asking when it's time. But also, you're going to attract some quality people who are going to get excited and rally around your idea. So I think that's the difference between when you started this in 2008. It was you. I love your you're like my sophomoric approach to the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
business
yeah, yeah.
model. But you attracted people, but it's really evolved over time. And this brings me to my final question for you, which is advice you have for someone who is writing a book specifically to help them grow their business. Like if it's a first time book, what lessons can they learn from you and maybe avoid some of the common pitfalls? Like where should they focus in order to get that kind of community support and get people rallying around their idea?
So this sounded so bass backwards to me, but I deployed it and my gosh, it works. Is the number one thing is to give it all away. And it sounds like that's the worst thing you can do for your business. If I put everything in my book, every ounce of my knowledge, why would anyone come and use my services? And you and I touched on this, Robbie. We talked about the DIYers, those people who read the book and then will never contact you again. That represents, in my experience, the vast majority of readers. But what I didn't realize, and now I do, is those are your biggest allies. The DIYers, yes, they'll never engage your business, but they engage your ideas. They become your marketing arm. So, Profit First is my most popular book, and hopefully, The Money Habit will beat that. But Profit First, I would say, I know there's over 1.4 or 1.5 million books in circulation, and there are countless businesses out there that have deployed it, and I've never heard of them or been in contact with them. And occasionally, I run into them. A speaking engagement just happened a couple of days ago, and someone came up and said that book transformed my life, and it's been 5 years since it's been changed. And they haven't hired my business; they haven't worked with anyone. But her name was Heather. She goes, "I've told hundreds of people about this, and I believe that to be true." So the DIYers, while they're not going to hire your business, they're going to become your marketing arm and say, "There's this extraordinary idea out there. Read this book." You need them. And the only way to win them over is if they have transformative experiences reading your book. So you have to give them everything you know. Now, the other group are the people that will engage your services. If you give them everything, isn't there a risk that they won't use you because now they have everything? And the reality is, not everyone wants to do everything. You may know how to fix a light bulb, but maybe you choose not to do it and you hire the services of someone to do the light bulb, or the switch is probably a better analogy. You may be able to do it, but you hire someone else to do it because of the convenience and the cost and time. Well, those people will hire people they trust the most. I don't want some rando dude walking in my house and just doing work. I want to know the electrician that my friend uses that he trusts. So how do you build that trust? If you give everything away in your book and someone reads that and they say, wow, this guy, Robbie, knows everything on this subject. He's taught me everything. I trust him more than anything. If there's a person I'm going to hire, it's going to be Robbie. So if you give away everything in your book, the people who don't hire you market you. The people that hire you trust you. And it's because you gave everything away.
I've absolutely experienced this on my end, and I tell people this, and I do sometimes get resistance from people about that initial idea.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between describing an apple and giving people that apple. So the people who are willing to take the description and run with it, let them DIY. And they, like you said, the best referrals come from those folks who get great results. And then some people are like, I want you to help me actually do that. Like
Yeah.
they get the plan. I love this. So how can people find you and follow your work?
You can go to my website, which is MikeMichalowicz.com, but I have a shortcut. It's MikeMotorbike.com because no one can spell Michalowicz. Motorbike, like the motorcycle. It's a nickname from grade school. It was the only one that rhymed. I have many nicknames. They're X-rated, so I can't share them. I bought the domain MikeMotorbike.com. And if you go there, all my books, you can get chapter downloads and start exploring the books without buying anything. I have tons of content to support the books there, all for free. On the resources page, you don't have to subscribe or any of that stuff. And I started a podcast this past year called Becoming Self-Made, where I'm exploring the journey of authors, of business leaders, all these different people and how they got there. In fact, I interviewed Don Miller. It was such a fascinating story of how he became an author and how he's impacting the world. So go to your favorite podcatcher, whatever they're called, and type in Becoming Self-Made. Check out the show.
Fantastic. We can put all the links in the show notes at bizbookpubhub.com. Check them out. And Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Robbie, it's been a joy. Second time. I love it.